So I think modeling is a really tough industry where there isn't this like formula that you can just follow.
Welcome back to the Crumpton Daily. We're going to do something very different today. We're going to take a behind the scenes look at the modeling world, something very different from Olympic sports. But we're doing this because we have two very talented models with us here today, and they have some great insights into the modeling world. So we're gonna give some tips, some advice, go through a list of different things. We generally have 5 categories that we're gonna go through. We have agencies and agents. We're gonna go through hair, makeup, and tattoos. We're gonna go through poses. Then we're gonna go on the art of working with photographers. And then 5th and finally, we're gonna go through the process of getting paid and how you make money with modeling. So with that being said, and that is our general guideline for this discussion today, I would like to introduce my 2 lovely colleagues here today.
So I'm Divya Biswal. I am represented by SLU in Portland, Natural Models Management in LA, and Stets in New York.
Hey, I'm Ash Morgan. I am represented by just SLU at this current point.
We do all have one commonality, and that is we are all represented by SLU, also known as Sport and Lifestyle Unlimited. They were the first agency to sign me. I've been with them now for 11 years, but of course my main focus has been sports, and so I don't have as in-depth of a knowledge as perhaps certainly Divya. And so let's continue just with the agency train for a little bit, since we all are with SLU. How did you guys come to SLU? How did you guys figure that out? Because I know, Ash, you had a different agent before.
Yeah.
And how did you make that transition? How did you find them? Talk a little bit about the agencies and the agent process.
Yeah.
Really fun.
So, I think I actually found them through my girlfriend. She had some friends who had lived in Portland who had been through SLU. Honestly, I don't even know who they are. They're like acquaintances of hers from high school. I should ask her because you guys might know them. But she was like, oh, I think this is actually like a really nice agency. And she'd been interested in getting into modeling, and I'd been kind of out of it for a while and kind of had a bad taste in my mouth. But we both were like, well, let's try to sign together. And so we got signed together. So potentially we'll have some gigs together as well.
Oh,
you know?
100% will.
Yeah.
So I was a professional athlete. I had just moved to California, and one of my friends was signed with SLU, and so I tagged them in one of my pictures. And somebody who was doing scouting at the time, he DM'd me on Instagram. I came into the office. They signed me a week later, and then the rest was history.
Let's move on though to topic number 2, which is hair, makeup, and then the big one that we've seen a shift in is tattoos over the last decade, certainly over my modeling career.
Yes.
Mine too. That's why I quit.
Fair, let's start there then. So why did you quit and why did you come back?
So, okay, and I started in Utah, and let me say that in Utah there's like a very particular, I feel like you did well because you didn't look like everybody.
Right.
But there is this expectation, at least for the women there, to be more clean cut, and I think everybody.
And different markets have different looks.
Yeah.
So what works in one market doesn't necessarily work in another.
And maybe this was just like the connections my agency had, but they were very like, it's a very religious state. They were a lot more like clean cut, no tattoos, no piercings, no like. With my agency, I had to tell them, like ask them if I could dye my hair before I did it. I had to tell them if I was gonna, like they didn't want me to get any tattoos. And they were just, it was very much like that. And I feel like I hit this point where I'm like, I like to express myself if I want to express myself. I'll show you, I have tattoos, like I plan on getting a full sleeve and like probably a bunch all over. Like I love tattoos. I love like being able to change my hair whenever I want to. Like that's what I thought. I didn't think I could do modeling because I was like, oh, if I get tattoos, I'm not gonna be able to model.
That's exactly what I was told.
Yeah.
Is that if you got tattoos, it was the kiss of death.
Yes.
That you could not do modeling.
Which it was back
It was.
And
It was.
Yes,
But
a
it's
decade
not.
ago, and now it's not.
even close to that anymore. Now they have castings for roles specifically with tattoos.
Yeah, and so when I moved to, that was something that drew me to SLU, is I moved to Portland and I told them straight up, I was like, hey, I have tattoos. I plan on getting a lot more tattoos. My girlfriend has a lot of tattoos. She's going to tattoo school right now. Like I plan on also apprenticing for tattooing. So I'm
She's
like,
gonna have more tattoos.
yeah, and it's like, it sounds dumb that was like a huge thing for me, but it's like the fact like not being able to express myself. And so SLU, Portland is much more hipstery and like, they were like, oh, that's totally fine. Like, that's chill. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was something that I could do still. So that's That's where I'm at.
Any tips on the hair and makeup side of things?
If you have a really great agent, which we all do, we all have Cassie Fry at SIU, and she's the best in the business. But if usually your agent will tell you whether hair and makeup is expected for you to be there. Usually the note you get from clients is show up with clean hair, no nail polish under nails or clear nail polish, and clean skin. That's about it. Makeup is interesting for me because I find that people sometimes have trouble color matching my skin, which can be a little bit frustrating because when you're a makeup artist, like one of the first things you should be able to do is color match skin. And I think for the most part, that's how they teach it. But if you haven't had experience on people with different colored skin, but there have been times where like the client will say, oh, she looks ashy on camera. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, it's because the undertones are wrong. So the color matching isn't there. And some clients are really receptive to it. I have a consistent client who I told them that was what was going on, and they hired a different makeup artist who knew how to color match skin. And so I think for hair and makeup, that's the biggest thing.
Let's go on to poses then. I'll start with Div, because Div, you're working today, you have this routine.
I think the biggest thing with posing is you want to, when you strike a pose, it doesn't look natural. And so when you're in that moment of moving from one pose to the next, that in-between moment is often what looks the best. And so what I've learned is you should just never stop moving. Just keep, you may feel really dumb, but like just keep moving. When you hit a pose that you know like feels good, like change your eye line for a few shots, like smile, look down, like arm out, look off to the side, like open your mouth, close mouth, like, you know, and you just keep switching it up and you'll get into this rhythm. And that's where later on, it's really important for working with photographers because like modeling is this like weird dance and relationship with like you and the camera and the photographers, and you're creating this beautiful image and it's just like a work of art.
So yeah, talk a little bit about working with a photographer as a relationship, how you create a rapport with them, what that communication is. You've touched on communication quite a bit in terms of being a necessary quality for the business of modeling.
Yeah.
If you could expand on that a bit.
So I think the relationship you have with a photographer is everything, and you're not going to have crazy instant chemistry with every single photographer you ever shoot with, but it is important to like feel comfortable, because if you don't feel comfortable, I can promise you it will show in the pictures, and that's not necessarily a model's fault. Like a lot of things can happen on a set that like can affect your performance. But I do think like when you can find those photographers that you have, like there's a few photographers that I just have like such an amazing chemistry with. Like I trust them. The images are always beautiful, and like we can kind of create something that's more creative and not necessarily just like cookie cutter what you'd expect of a modeling job. And so I think the relationship is really important. And so you have to communicate and ask them, okay, like, so what are we going for today? Like, what are you looking for from me? What does the client want? Where am I? Like, am I on a studio? Am I on the beach? Like, what can I interact with? Like, and so I think just talking is so simple, but it helps so much.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think one of the things that makes modeling a bit unique is that it is a vanity industry. It is something that many people want to do. Certainly not everybody, but there's a gravity there. There's something that attracts people, that they're willing to do it for free, or they're willing to do perhaps something shady. And it's sometimes a difficult path to navigate between selling yourself for nothing or not enough versus making money and getting a solid paycheck at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on getting to the stage where you said even as a professional, you're still paying for test shoots and you're still investing in it, but then how do you translate that into paying for shoots into actually getting paid and having that book and finding that regular financial success?
Yeah, so I think modeling is a really tough industry where there isn't this like formula that you can just follow. I think, unfortunately, if your look isn't necessarily in, you can do everything right and you still may not get that success that you had wanted. And that's not the only thing that will make you a successful model, because if you want to make money modeling, getting the first job, great. But what you really want is you want those repeat clients. You want clients who want to work with you time in and time out. And so I think that's where the business side comes in, where it doesn't matter what your look is. Okay, you booked a job, amazing. Develop relationships with the producers, with the clients, with hair and makeup, with the stylist, because everybody talks in this industry. And I've had jobs where I was referred to by a producer who was producing a new job, who had worked with me on another job, and said, you need to hire this girl, she's amazing. And it's all just because everybody's a person. So you go on a set and you just talk to people like they're people, and it's not like you're up here and you're down here. And I think the thing that grinds my gears the most was when I'm on a set and you see a model who is really great at managing up. So they're really nice to the client, they're really nice to the photographer, and they're really rude to everybody else. And I do think people notice when you can show compassion and when you can have a conversation and show an interest in somebody else's life other than your own. Because as a model, we're the center of attention on a shoot because we're the ones getting our picture taken. And I think if you can, have a little humanity and talk to people and get to know them and remember things about them, you will have a really great career because people will want to work with you again.
That is excellent advice. That is A+ sterling advice.